Hi there, and welcome to Grey Muzzle Geekery for the week of April 29, 2019. So, this week we're doing something a little bit different as we have recorded a roadcast on our way to the great and wonderful game of Alliance South Michigan. Yep, Dusty White and I were on another fun LARP adventure, and so we recorded our journey to the event. We will have next week's episode be a recap of said event. However, until then, we hope you guys enjoy this episode, and a little apology in advance as we're also testing out some new equipment. So I know there's some little glitchy issues, so to speak, but I'm sure you guys will find it out as I have as well. Still, we want to thank everybody once again, and hope you guys enjoy the show. Hi there, we are currently on the road to Alliance, South Michigan, driving underneath 23 Mile Road. Doesn't work as well as 8 Mile. Something about Mom's spaghetti.
That was 2 weekends ago. We passed 8 Mile.
We did pass 8 Mile. So, yes, we're on our way to Alliance, South Michigan for another weekend adventure.
Road trip LARPcast.
Woo, road trip LARPcast. Well, I am obviously Dusty Red, and with me as always,
Dusty White.
And we already did the news, so here we go. See, our organization is amazing. You know, we're professionals, ladies and gentlemen.
Absolutely. So, as we did the last time we were on the road, it works very nicely to have some questions that our audience have sent us. And the first question we're going to answer today is from Jill. She sends us a question, and her question is, what's on your LARP bucket list?
LARP bucket, am I going first or you going first?
I will go first, but I'll go even further and go, do you have an in-game LARP bucket list and an out-of-game LARP bucket list?
Okay. You first, I guess. You said it yourself.
Okay, so I would say my out-of-game bucket list would involve being able to play LARP in a tropical location, either on a beach somewhere or on a boat.
Okay, I mean, yay for malaria LARP, like that's exciting, but I feel like tropical. Okay, I'm actually very akin to that, which is funny you mentioned that, because one of my bucket lists, actually, I did not realize it was a bucket list until one of our listeners mentioned a road trip or a flight trip.
Okay.
I would like, there's an Alliance chapter out east that has a campsite on the side of, or is it part of, or on the side of, or on a freaking volcano.
Inactive volcano.
It's an inactive volcano, but it's still a volcano. Like, I think that is pretty freaking cool. That would be a fun out-of-game bucket list. I kind of want to dance on like a boat, so like a ship, a cruise
ship.
Like
a cruise ship. Like, could you imagine going on a, like, obviously it's a little weird if I had, excess amount of spending money, because you go on a cruise.
If you do it proper, though, you could do something like Vampire or one of those games that doesn't involve.
I feel like I have seen, basically, advertisements for a LARP cruise or a gaming cruise. I think I have seen that before.
I've seen gaming cruises and stuff. I'm sure that stuff exists.
So I personally have one up on some people. I have LARPed in a cave.
You have LARPed in a cave. Hey, where was this cave at?
Tennessee.
The
only thing I didn't like about the cave experience was that I had to, or we as a group, because where we were LARPing, there was an extended period of time that we had to go all the way out of the cave and spend several hours due to health reasons.
They had a thing that said that you could only be in there for a certain amount of hours, correct?
Right. If you went past that, you were basically oxygen depriving yourself, I feel like.
I've been on that mod.
Yeah. So it was a little weird, kind of an out-of-game, in-game kind of weirdness going from down below into the cave. Walking Friday night into the cave was really atmospheric and cool, and fighting into the cave. And then we're just randomly Saturday, it's like, okay, we're going to walk back out now. And there really wasn't a reason to.
Except, yeah, no, it makes sense.
And unfortunately, that was the opportune time for somebody to steal all of the gold from the NPC
Nah,
camp.
you are bad about staying positive.
Sorry.
You are really like, come on, positive Alice here. So, how about an in-game bucket list? What is one of your in-game thing? I guess I'm assuming your character Dusty White, unless you have other characters that you have lists for that you wanna rattle off. That's fine. But I'm assuming your primary elven, forest touched, tree touched, ent touched. I mean, nature aligned, I guess.
Yeah.
So what would be that bucket list that you would want to ring out?
I don't know if this would be considered sort of semi-out of game bucket list as well, but I would like to find a object in game to devote retiring to. A path to find to retire my character to.
Okay.
Something that would be, I guess, memorable instead of just retiring to the woods somewhere and, bunny slippers and a bathrobe, but just actually finding something worthy of retiring my character going like, here's my path. This is what I want to ultimately make a goal towards.
Become a permanent NPC for the most part.
Yeah, basically.
So a chapter could use that character as the elf in the woods that other players down the road, assuming, if the success continues, something that one of our listeners' kids, Willow, could roll up and go, yeah, I've heard stories of this character, and
right.
Who knows, you NPC it or somebody else NPCs it, but there's this legendary figure in the woods that's
my character.
That is guarding some
and
sort of...
it wouldn't be a noble type of position of like, Princess Dusty or somebody like that. That's not my style.
Right.
But if I could get to a position in nature to just be that entity.
Okay. It is a weird question because I guess it goes into character motives and character, like what makes a good character, what makes a fleshed out character. And what's funny is the way I play my Dusty. I play him as the permanent assistant character, like never the main character even for my own stories. I play as a secondary character.
Right.
Like he is not.
You're support.
He is a support. Even in my own fantasy, I am a support character. That says a lot, actually. Come to think of it, but I don't have daddy issues. We already established that in the last road trip. I don't have daddy issues. Just love me, please. But I do play a permanent support type character where I am the fool or the rogue that's not the my fox does not have I'm going to retire to beat the king or I'm going to retire to do this. He definitely plays the whole. Even retirement is kind of a weird notion for him. Like, I don't see my character retiring. I'm either going to keep playing this guy until he perms, or until I out of game perm, which,
right?
Who knows? So his bucket list is telling a better story than the one before. Like, what is a good story that I could sit? And so it's ambiguous, and it's really, I'm sure, not the answer.
Do you think almost like the everlasting entertainer?
I mean, yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like, it'd be really weird to say, like, what's his bucket list? Well, his bucket list is to tell the best story he can, or give the best, have the best experience, or have the coolest moments, and then try to outdo those. And there's going to be a point where you're going to hit your magnum opus of, this is the coolest thing I've ever done. This was it. I literally levitated. Like David Blaine was like, shit, dude. Yay. So, I just imagine Chris Angel in the back, swooping around all spooky and emo or something. Anyway, so I could see, I just don't have that same that same mentality of, this is a character, and of course there's nothing wrong with either, at least I don't feel.
No.
You could make a character and be like, this is a retirement-worthy goal, or this is a character that's going to be around to foster in and help teach or be entertaining or whatnot. And I guess that's the route I want to take, is more of a, he's a grizzled veteran at this point. My fox is an old dude who's
always perpetually 9.
Yeah, he's always 9. Well, but that's me. That's also the escapism behind it, and that's I guess the other thing of like, if you retire Dusty White, do you have another character in the works, or do you have another idea of what you want to do?
No.
So it's a question of, like, obviously I have other characters I can play, but I guess it goes back to another issue of how much of it is. We go into, I guess this is a listener question, but it does dance into the, like, permanent death. Is it necessary or not?
Right.
And it's a case of, like, even in campaigns, in D&D campaigns, or, and, hey, didn't you just finish watching Endgame? So, like, no spoilers, because I didn't see it. But, do you put at what point do you put
an end at it?
At an end to a character, an end to a story, or an end to a thing? And I think in a persistent world, like a lot of these LARPs we play, then the idea of permanently killing off a character is a little bit harder to swallow because the world continues on without you.
Right.
It's not like a story or a movie where this is the end and everybody starts anew, but rather you start anew while everything else goes on. So you do have the issue of falling behind on an out-of-game level.
Right.
Because you lose your levels or whatever else, so you fall behind there. You do fall behind on a shared moment level. So pros and cons here. The con, though, the pro is that you do have people who play characters well beyond their usefulness or their need to stick around. Like, you have people that sit there and play their characters that really aren't even having fun as those characters anymore.
Right, because they've already hit their, as you put it, magnum opus, and they're never going to have a better, cooler moment.
But they're playing the character because they don't want to feel left behind. Or, one of my favorite terms, sunk cost fallacy, of they're playing their character because they invested so much time that it'd be dumb to stop playing that character. When realistically, if you're not having fun as that character, then why are you continually investing time into something you're not having fun with?
Right.
Like, I dedicated 10 years into playing this character. Yeah, but those 10 years are done. Are you still having fun? The answer is no, but you're still playing because you feel that you owe it, or because once the answer is no, then it's really time to go elsewhere.
Right, and I would also say if it's the same, you could also still be having fun as that character, but really, ultimately, you should ask yourself, is your character still have the ability to grow? And I'm not talking level-wise or skill-wise, but yeah, is your character able to grow organically in the world itself and get newer goals or newer newer things that are interesting for that character?
Oddly enough, that kind of happened with us between our shift from playing Euro International and jumping over. Our jump from Euro International over to the Alliance, as playing these same characters, though, with these backgrounds of everything that we've done, and all of a sudden, we started at new level where it's not like we just transferred the character.
Right.
We just transferred the concepts and the experience, but the levels are new, so we're not breaking anything in violation of the game.
Right.
We just roll in like, this is my character concept. Yes, I'm level 6 or 5 or whatever, but we're low level with old characters. But because we're able to play this new game and this new world that we're in, we kind of got a free reset in the sense of, I'm able to play my character, but there's different situations. There's different scenarios.
There's a almost refresh of what would you like to do? Like, where do you see yourself going? I spent an hour and some change in the woods talking to a mentor character, Mathis, and him explaining, well, this is how nature works on this land.
Right.
Is this something that, like, if you're looking to repeat what you've done, these are the paths that you would do it. But if you're looking to do other things, and I'm looking to maybe do something that I wasn't able to do at Nero, based on my character. I wasn't born an elf. I turned into an elf.
You do have the advantage or disadvantage of when you are your character at this other game, and you establish yourself, in your case is Dusty White, to be this nature creature, to be this this treant, basically, you can't change that path anymore. I'm in a similar situation of I am this big bad were creature. I'm an alpha were creature. I am a leader of a pack. I am all this. I cannot change that.
Right.
I would completely be breaking character if I was like
suddenly want to do.
I want to go and be
celestial
king of the Thieves Guild or something.
Right.
I can't do that anymore. So that path is closed to me. However, now with this new shift over us, we're able to play this game. We're able to play these characters with personalities, again, that are akin to our own. Because that's the thing about LARP is, as good as an actor as you may be, at the end of the day, it's still going to rely on your improv skills. And your improv skills are innately you.
Right.
You could obviously use character traits to influence those improv skills. But at the end of the day, there's still going to be aspects of you that shine in those characters. Fine. So, for Dusty White's particular situation, for you to come to this new land, you get a refresh that is a acceptable refresh. It is understandable. It's not like, oh, why is Dusty White all of a sudden not a treant? Or why is she not this nature-aligned thing?
Right. Or what is going on?
It's very clearly you have a chance, an opportunity to try a different path, to try different skill sets, or to try an out-of-game as well. You get an out-of-game reset to be like, maybe you don't want to be a healer. Maybe I don't want to be a rogue. Maybe I want to be a little bit more fighter-heavy. Or maybe I want to, the joke I've made before of like, why my fox doesn't use a shield anymore.
Right.
Makes the joke of like, no, I use a spear and a sword. I don't use a shield because all emo now, there's nothing left to defend. Ugh. But he's made the transition to a new world. He's become more aggressive. He's not with his pack. He's not a defender of his land, but rather he is a newcomer in a new land. So even the mentality shift of why am I going to fight with a sword and shield and have that mentality of sword and shield fighting, of a defensive style fighter, of a protector, of a guardian, and go, no, I'm going to be a dual wielder. I'm going to be a little bit more aggressive. That helps influence my play as well. We go into what are things that prepare you for game or get you into a mindset. The fact that I'm not fighting with a sword and shield sways how I'm going to play this weekend.
Right.
The fact that I need to be aggressive, the fact that I need to play with a different style helps click into that character mentality of, no, I'm not just going to wait for my friends to defend me and wait for this and that. So it is a different mindset, and it does allow you to try new things, to go this route. So we are fortunate enough to do that. That said, can you do that with new characters? Can you go make a new character, you also get that same reset. So.
Right. So moving on.
Okay.
Let's ask from Travis, again, another co-owner of Alliance South Michigan. He asks, biggest pet peeve in any LARP you have played?
You go first, Dusty.
I would go with biggest pet peeve in any LARP that I play would be anything that ruins immersion.
Okay.
And there's a couple of different things that fall underneath that for me.
I'm with you 100% on this, by the way. Like, for our listeners, we kind of talked a little bit behind the scenes on this, and we're trying to figure out, and we both looked at each other and it was like, immersion breaking.
So the things that fall underneath that for me are out of game lighting.
So no big fluorescent tube lighting overhead?
Right. I've just played too many LARPs at sites that obviously there's a certain level of lighting that has to happen for safety reasons because we are
floodlighted old
at Tuckabatchee, or there was specific lighting that had to happen at Camp Wakanda in Peoria, things like that.
Sure.
I can understand that, and I can wrap my brain around it and be like, okay, there's a street lamp down at the way, like that's a safety area, whatever. The thing that gets me for lighting and for immersion breaking, and one thing that I've always given props to Alliance in general, and including Alliance South Michigan, is their ability to rep immersion with lighting in their taverns.
Sure.
There exists in the game a spell for light. it makes no sense why we would be at 10 o'clock at night or at midnight, 2 o'clock in the morning, going into a tavern and being able to see anything and everything I want to see because the fluorescent overhead lights are on.
Right.
Whereas...
It's just excessive. It's overkill.
Yes. There's times where, especially for me being on plot, it was not fun fighting into the light.
And being as a PC, also fighting into the light it does create unsafe conditions in some cases.
Correct. So lights are one for me. So I prefer to at night, if it's midnight and you are trying to run around in the woods and you go into a tavern and you come out of the tavern, you got to wait for your night vision to return and so on and so forth. It's inconvenient, and it pulls me out of the game. It pulls me out of my immersiveness for a full weekend event.
Now, one of the arguments that could be said is you do have people that have medical conditions where they need access to they don't want to turn their cabin lights on or tavern lights on because they need access to their, whatever they have, inhalers, pills, EpiPens, whatever. Like, there's a variety of things that can happen.
There's always emergencies that as long as you know where the light switches are.
But there is a laziness that comes on for, I'm just going to check the cabin. Like, first off, even with the emergencies, there's still a case of have your stuff in an easily accessible location.
Yep.
Like, if you think that you need your anti-anxiety meds, or you need your EpiPen, or you need your whatever, A, it should either be on you, or B, my favorite spot's under a pillow. Put it under your pillow.
Yeah.
Because at least then you know where your bedding is. You get there, hey, it's under my pillow or in my pillowcase or something like that. Easy to grab. And yeah, there's a laziness also that ties into it of, I'm just looking for a new pair of socks. And then the overhead lights come on, and it's like...
We've all been there. We've all done it. That's fine.
Well, I'm going with the immersion break now of, like, I hate a dirty cabin.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Now I'm thinking about it where, like, there's stuff all over the place. People leave their bags out. Like, it drives me up a wall. Because the last thing I want to do is walk into a cabin and then there's... a pair of white socks just sitting in the middle of the floor. It's like...
Plastic bags from grocery stores. It's one of the biggest things that I will fix it. I will pull the things out of the bag and I'll put the bag somewhere else because come packing on Sunday, you need that bag again. But whatever it is in that bag, either put it under a bed or put it out somewhere.
And of course,
or hide it under something.
We are also guilty of doing
absolutely.
this.
All of this.
Just about everyone has done it, but if you sit and think about things that just like drive you up a wall, that's definitely some of them. So you're saying, lighting was one thing.
So lighting is one thing. The other bigger problem I find, and as you start to become an older LARPer, we're all guilty of it, and it's to the point of, hey, let's kind of keep each other in check of it, is out of game talk. Yep. But if we're in game and we're in the tavern and somebody starts, oh, hey, did you see that movie?
Yeah. Or,
hey, did you, how's that, hey, the 49ers scored against the, whatever.
Okay. Already your story's off because the 49ers haven't scored anything in years. There's a reason why they're the number 2 draft pick this year. Well, actually, that just happened. It's Friday. Yeah, no, draft pick was yesterday on Thursday. Anyway, continue.
Nerd.
I'm a football nerd. I am a football geek, too. I am a sport geek. That is one of which is oddly, odd about we talk about holes in geekdom. Like, I transcend some of that nerdness of I definitely go into sports. I am a bit of a sport nerd.
Okay. But
49ers suck, we established that.
Got it. But how did they score against the, their Cowboys? I don't want to hear that kind of conversation.
Right.
Unless you find a unique way to talk about it in game that's not immersion breaking.
And we definitely
you aren't going to say,
we've definitely used when we're watching when the Blackhawks were in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And they were playing
either the Wings or...
No, it wasn't the Wings. It wasn't the Wings. Who they played? Because we said it was against...
Penguins? Was it the Beatas?
Yeah.
Or something like that?
Yeah, I think it was the Penguins. No, because that would have been East-West. God, I can't remember who it was, but was it the Wild or one of those where we called the Blackhawks the tribes, or the tribe or something. Oh yeah, the tribe of barbarians, or the tribe of the Beata tribe versus the
chieftain Beata tribe versus
something, but change it up to be like, yeah, we heard about the war against the Beata versus the werebears. I think we used for the wild.
Oh yeah, okay.
Because the werecats were the Nashville Predators, and then the werebears were the Minnesota Wild. But using something like that to go like, yeah, we heard about the Beata were fighting against the werebears, and the Beata won. We're like, oh, okay. Like, something like that, at least then.
It shows people how unique you can be and how in-game you can be. Obviously, if you talk about movies, you can talk, I saw a play last week, or hey, we need to go to the Mart of the Wall, or the Green Wall, or something like that. Little things like that could mean just a moment of you not stepping out.
I've definitely had people laugh when they're asking, like, where I get a pouch or something. It's like, where'd you get that from? And I'm like, oh, from the jungle. And it takes them to go, the jungle, oh, Amazon, oh. And then, like, you can see their brain put it together. A little bit of smoke comes out the ears, and they're like, got it.
Right.
But little things like that, I mean, it does help. Obviously, you kind of want to still avoid those conversations if you can.
But
like, oh, where'd you get that costume piece? Like, like, a dwarf made it. But if you're like, yeah, I got it from the jungle, they're like,
oh, okay. And then there's like, I saw a mini play for television, or
I still try to keep all
Faye
of that
in a box.
So I got the
Faye in a box is always a catch.
Faye in a box you get, so you can take pictures on site. But yeah, I try to keep even the plays and the mini plays. I try to not use that, because even then, if you're at the point where you're talking about the mini play or the play, then you have already kind of pulled yourself out of immersion.
Yeah,
you've already become unimmersed. Like, at best, you're keeping yourself from ruining somebody else's good fun, but you've already pulled yourself out.
And now, obviously, for some of our listeners that may never have LARPed, there are moments in between, hey, we went on this module, and you're sitting out of game, and you're hanging out waiting for the mod to be prepped, or, the NPCs to get ready, put makeup on or whatever. Then you can definitely talk out of game and just joke around, play around and just talk about regular, like, oh, hey, how's your job going, or how's your family? There's definitely times for you to do that.
There's moments of break, for sure.
But in the tavern at 10 o'clock at night on Friday night, and I'm listening to you talk about how you won over, like, basically out of game talk, just don't do it at 10 o'clock in the middle of my tavern. It totally ruins my night. Or not my night, but it pulls you out of the mindset of what you're doing.
Sure.
I would say, I think that's my only two.
It gives me a lot of editing to do. Well, since we're on this point, I gotta edit this. I told you to calm down because you did 4 times. I was like,
I caught myself.
Okay. As for me, I think one of my big pet peeves can be hyper competitiveness. I think, obviously, immersion breaking is one of my big things too. Again, we both looked at each other and was like, immersion breaking. Hyper competitiveness can really ruin things for me too. I think there's a point where some people tend to forget that it's a game, forget that we're all here to play together, and that while we want to challenge each other, there's a difference between me challenging you because I'm better or have bigger stats, and me challenging you to be a better player. It does get into a genitalia waving competition sometimes, where people are just like, oh, I got this, and I could do this, and I'm better than you at this and this. It's like, cool, you're not encouraging me to want to come back.
Right.
Because as good as a plot team could be, or as good as a game could be, a lot of times you do need those players to be the reason to come back. And if your players are too busy competing with each other, or your NPCs are too busy guaranteeing resurrections or guaranteeing, total player, or was it TPKs?
Yeah, total party wipes.
Total party kills and stuff. Like, if you're looking for that, then you're going to find yourself almost lonely in a hurry, which, again, you also don't want to not have resurrections. You don't want to have people get away with stupidity and other things. But there is that fine line of, you don't want to be overly competitive, because it is a shared experience. It's a shared medium. It is a collaborative storytelling effect. There are always going to be people who are going to be better role players. There's going to be people who are better combat, better combat fighters or better at combat casting or better at a particular skill.
Right.
And part of the LARP experience is sharing on that. And a lot of the LARP experience is, celebrating each other's abilities. Oh my goodness, you are a really good fighter. Let me learn from you. Like, let me celebrate that. Not, I need to beat this guy because he's better than me. I mean, there is that, and that could be an in-game motivation. But you have to be careful not to let that in-game motivation sour your out-of-game viewpoints on things. To let it get to your head to go, okay, this person's a better fighter than me. And obviously I use that because I'm known for being a little bit of a stick jock. But to let that out-of-game notion of this person's a better fighter than me, to let it ruin my in-game of go, I need to beat them. Or rather turn it into, how do I beat them? How do I learn from them? How do I do this? How do I do that? Because everybody's going to have something that, like, nobody's going to be perfect at everything.
Right.
You're going to be, on average, if you're playing in a game at 100 people and you're average, that means there's going to be 49 people better than you and 49 people worse than you. So you have to remember where you lie in that grand scheme of things, I guess, of, trying to figure it out. So yeah, the hyper-competitiveness can ruin a thing. Also, through hyper-competitiveness, you also get a point of where cheating starts to creep in. I
was just going to say that as far as with us running, or me running Highborn, we had that conversation as a plot team of there was and I use air quotes for it, but acceptable levels of cheating.
Yeah, we've all used an acceptable level of cheating. And what would be some examples?
Example of that would be, I overcast one of my 6th level spells.
My biggest thing right out the gate is counting hit points.
Yeah.
That is by far the easiest way to explain air quote acceptable level of cheating, where you're in a fight and you can't exactly remember how many hits. And obviously you creep into rhino hiding where it's like, hey, I did 100 points of damage, you should fall at like 40. But there's definitely times where I sat there and went, wait, did I take 39 or 41 points? And that matters because I only have 40. Where am I at? Or I took 39, or did I take 39 or 38? F it, I took 39. Like, I cheated up, so I took more damage than I actually did.
Right.
But those are more or less acceptable levels of cheating of like, okay, math is hard when you're getting hit by 5 or 6 people, or I couldn't do the math right away, or again, I'm in the cast and go, wait, that's why you mark your battle boards, that's why you do all that. And obviously you want to curtail that as much as possible. But
I prefer, there's times where it's PCs, I've seen PCs cheat. I guess I shouldn't say the word cheat, but hey, I got hit with something, I don't know what it is.
I'm gonna fall down.
It doesn't matter what it is, it's a death.
Right.
Like, whatever it was, it could have been a weakness or a binding or whatever, unless somebody says, no, hey, it was this. But in big battles or something, there's so many calls being made and things like that. It just, for me, it's, I got hit with something, I say, hey, what was that? Nobody answers me in 3 seconds, I take a death and I fall. I get rid of all my protectives, all of that stuff. It just doesn't matter. And that's a form of cheating, but it's almost a game leveler or a modular leveler.
It's a case of, again, it's a shared experience. We had a conversation, and I haven't told it on here, but it's like one of the mini stories where I had a situation where they asked if I accepted physical role play, and I said no. But they just picked me up and ran with me because they killed me. Asked if I accepted physical role play. I said no, but they did it anyway. Now, obviously, I have every right to complain and be like, hey, no, don't touch me. Like, no means no. Done. That said, because it wasn't that big of a deal to me, this is a very isolated incident.
Right.
I need to clear that out right now. This is a very isolated incident. I didn't think it was that big of a deal, but it was enough for me to complain later. I did end up going with it and then bringing it up later saying, hey, look, there's some cheating that was going on, but I didn't want to interrupt the flow of the game.
Right.
Because there is that, too, of like, there is a flow of the game that you want to be careful of where You don't want to cheat, not because, oh, you're being a cheater, but you are cheating other people's experiences from the whole situation as well. Oh, why did that guy just cast 7 spells that he clearly doesn't have? It lessens everybody else's experience. Where, hey, we survived this situation that could have been dire, but we survived because this guy had all these spells. Oh, wait, he didn't have those spells. Well, we didn't succeed then. It kind of cheated that victory. So it's... obviously, you don't want to cheat at all, period. Even the air quote acceptable levels, you don't want to do that. But they do happen, and you always have to remember to continue and roll with it and be better. Just find out how to be better, and then once you learn how to be better, you be better until you learn how to be better than that.
I always enjoyed what we did at Highborn, because a lot of the time when a plot person comes up and asks you, hey, can I see your battle board? Or, hey, battle board is the way you keep track of your skills, how you've expended them. But they'll ask you, hey, how many 6 level spells do you cast? Or something like that. It's automatically assumed it's us versus them. PCs versus NPCs.
Well, and that goes back to that aggressive, competitive nature in some regards of you're challenging me on my, hey, let me see your battle board, and I get defensive and go, whoa, what the hell? Why are you calling me a cheater? Blah blah. It's like, no. Continue.
Well, we at Highborn had a system that was built in place to remind people it wasn't a us versus them. It was a communal group experience, and it was PC marshals.
Yeah. Because
a lot of the time, marshals don't, unless you have a marshal on every mod that you go on, unless it's specific to that mod, the marshals can't remember from one mod to the next, okay, that person cast 9 life spells.
Right.
Or how many items did get swapped around or something like that.
Especially if you use on 2 different mods or 2 different marshals.
Yeah. And I'll personally call myself out when I was originally first starting play. I'll actually call myself out on it twice. When I first originally started playing, I definitely had an experience where my friend at the time, and we were traveling, playing in game together and things like that, she definitely looked at me and was just like, you've way overcasted your 4th level spells. You need to watch that. And I took it more to heart than my plot person coming up and to go, let me see your battle board.
Sure.
And the other thing I'm notorious bad about, and I do make active effort to make sure I get better at it every time I have an experience with it, is incant then throw.
That's the biggest. Enunciate your incants clearly, and then throw the packet afterwards. But I've called you on that myself.
Yep.
Where I'm like, hey, incant then throw, and it's not aggressive. It's not, hey, you're cheating. Stop it. It's,
hey, just remember
to roll.
Because you get adrenaline running, and you're like, oh, I got to get this caster down or something like that, and then it's just speed casting. Whereas, in theory, you should be making sure that their calls are made and that they can clearly understand what's being hit with.
Said and what is... Yep.
And whisper casting. I've never been bad at that myself because I'm naturally loud. But whisper casters used...
Love you.
Whisper casters used to get me so frustrated because they'll run up on you whispering casting, and you've got to go, wait, I need to know what if I have things to guard against whatever you're, defenses to guard against what you're casting with me. But now I have to stop you, say, what did you just hit with? And it interrupts the flow of the game.
Absolutely. It causes
so if you
unnecessary holds
clearly,
and all those things, something like that. Which actually, that could fall into your immersion breaking thing too, is unnecessary holds.
That's a good...
there are holds, and I understand the hold rule, again, for
Somebody's good about it.
Like, if you... Generally, a hold is a universal timeout in the game. So if you call a hold, it's everybody put your head down, everybody's take a knee, don't move, because common holds are like glasses being knocked off people's faces, and the last thing they need is people walking around and then crunch. Or too many people, if somebody gets hurt, and too many people are milling around, is he okay? Is he... No. Let the dedicated person deal with it. But you do have unnecessary holds where... I've run from somebody and tripped and fallen, and somebody's like, oh my goodness, hold, and stop the whole game. And I'm just like, I'm good. I tripped. I fell on grass. I'll be fine. 3, 2, 1, go. Like, a big timeout like that. So, obviously that becomes a separate argument. I don't think we'll cover on this episode because it is a who should call the hold, who shouldn't. Like, at what point do you call? That's
and there's
also
people
more
that
specific
believe on it's better safe than sorry.
And I do agree that sometimes it's better safe than sorry. And I've definitely prescribed to the fact of unless I cannot speak, that I'm bleeding out my neck or like I'm concussed unconscious. Like if I fall down 20-foot ravine and I'm like, I'm good, like keep going. I'll hobble my broken leg up the hill and be fine. But not everybody's like that. You'll have somebody that can be, like I've heard stories of people breaking ribs sneezing.
Right.
So it's possible that somebody could be more hurt than they think. So it's sensitive. It is definitely a case of though, just don't call a hold. Like I've been hitting in the head plenty of times while fighting. And my big thing is I get mad. I understand I get mad. I get frustrated real quick. So rather than saying anything, I'll get hit. I'll just make eye contact with the person, turn around, and walk away. That is more or less my verbal of going, I'm done.
I'm good.
If you want to keep hitting me, I will fall over and be really mad at you. But realize that you popped me in the face, I'm going to walk away and just recover. And
right.
That moment of anger that swelled up, I'm going to turn around and just scream at a tree or something because it benefits nobody. And I don't want to interrupt the flow of everybody else's thing because it's common. It happens. It's unintentional. You didn't mean to hit me in the head. It happens. Let's not ruin it. Let's just step away. Let's pull back.
So I'll go ahead and piggyback off a little bit your original short story about the being dragged off.
Sure.
And kind of go piggyback off that and say, player versus player. How important is it to a LARP game?
Well, I have a big issue with this particular topic. Do you have anything, or do you want me to just begin the diarrhea and you pick up from here?
How eloquently spoken.
It's verbal diarrhea, absolutely.
Go ahead, and I'll interject if I feel the need to.
I'll try to be clear, too, on things. Depending on your game, player versus player, it could be super annoying. And I say that because some of the LARPs that we've been playing lately has made more and more of an effort to stray away from player versus player, correct?
I agree.
Okay. By not having player versus player being such a big deal, you're able to get a little bit more loose with the rules in terms of, as a rules writer, there doesn't need to be an emphasis on balance. As much balance as before. Because when you have a player versus player game, then you kind of want to balance out all of your character classes and stuff. Or at least have the triad of paper versus scissors versus rock type. You want to make sure things are balanced.
Okay.
When you're players versus the environment or players versus enemies, the balance isn't as key. Like, you're able to, again, Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition did a really good job of, well, we feel that some classes are less powerful than others, so how are we going to balance it? Just overpower everything.
Okay. Everybody gets a car. Oprah it.
Where also, plot only has to worry about, well, how do we balance it? Send out a couple more monsters. Whereas when you're player versus player, balance needs to be a little bit more finely honed because there is no send more players after it.
Right.
If player A beats player B's done. So, whereas with monsters, hey, a bunch of players are really high power, but they just keep running into a wall of monsters that whittles down that player level or whatnot. And it's a very lame example where I'm just using throw more monsters at it. But the need to focus on player balance is definitely lessened compared to player versus player. You look at any place for any PC game or any first-person shooter or any other game that relies on that, there is definitely a bigger emphasis on ensuring that there's more balance on player classes and player races, and players themselves are more balanced.
Okay.
That said, you then have what I call the asshole effect.
Interesting choice of words.
Where in a game that removes player versus player, you start creating problematic players that would have been weeded out by player versus player encounters.
When you say weeded out, what do you mean?
well, that's where it gets tricky. I definitely, in my heyday, did some things that could have been not shady, but just definitely kind of shitty player things. You know, stealing from other players, in-game stealing, in-game roguing. Never stole out-of-game stuff. Never touch other people's out-of-game things.
Right.
But would steal coin or items from other players or do things like that. The way I got punished, because you're dealing with a medieval society where a player could go ahead and go, well, I'm a knight and I think you stole this, therefore I will execute you or whatever, which does not foster good relations with your game. So now you're trying to play witness of, well, I saw you steal this, no you didn't, whatever. I have definitely been PvP'd on where I gotta phrase that, PvP'd
yeah,
on.
you really do. I was gonna let you go, and nope, you caught yourself.
I got very...
Well played, sir. Well played.
I just got Russian mixtapes thrown in my head here of PvP'd on. China. Anyway, so I was I don't want to say victim, though, because I would not say I was a victim of PvP.
You earned what you got what you deserved.
But the way I got it was also well done by the people that
chose to engage you in it.
In that activity. Whereas there's an ability or a potion called amnesia or an elixir where you basically forget the last, well, here it's half hour, before it was an hour of what happened. So I definitely did something. I had some players roll up on me and basically beat me up and punished me, stole some stuff from me, made me forget it, so gave me an amnesia, and then let me be. I didn't die. My character didn't resurrect in perm. And this kind of piggybacks on the question of, you know, what is the worth of characters? Do you believe in character permanent death and whatnot?
Right.
You know, I am not a fan of permanent character death unless the character wants to do it. My perfect game would have, when players die, you lose skills or lose abilities and stuff, and you would have to spend coin to get those skills back. Use money as your motivator, because that is where it's at with the game we play now. It got to a point now where a lot of players don't care about their characters resurrecting, don't lose their stuff.
Right.
And ultimately, I feel, and I could be wrong, is because chances are you permanent character, they're going to come back as a similar or the same character at a lower level, and if all their friends still have their stuff, they're going to get their stuff back.
Right.
So
you have the situation where they permanently die. They don't want to they don't want to have to rebuild their character or get the lesser XP or whatever you want to call it and stop playing.
You do have that issue where, you all of a sudden start losing players and there's a degree where, depending on the game that I play, will I come back if I perm? It's just or permanently kill my character, because there is an investment, partially emotionally, like, I've been playing this character for 20 years, which some people could argue, you've been playing a character for too long, you should switch into something else. But, like, costume is expensive.
Yep.
You know, we've talked about it. I've probably put in $20,000 to $25,000 into my characters into this character. As Dusty Red, in my 19 years of LARPing, I could probably say I put in $20,000 worth of. Now that's
in event fees and things
like
that.
That is event fees. Yeah. That is the money that I spent.
He's not rolling around with $20,000 worth of costuming, folks. I just wanted to clarify that.
But in the years, I've also bought a $500 pair of boots that I've blown through. Like,
fair.
I've had the Windwalker custom buffalo hide boots that were $400 that I got early on, and I've worn them through to the point of no repair.
Right.
I have had, multiple sets of chainmail, multiple doublets, multiple belts and pouches that I've blown out and used, remaking weapons.
Captain Tangent you back.
Yeah.
PvP.
So you're correct. So we get to the point of you have characters that will learn their lessons by getting beat up. So I got beat up. I did a bad thing. In game, I don't remember getting beat up. technically I forgot. I just woke up in the woods with less money. Out of game, as a player, I realized, okay, I did bad. I got caught. There's metagaming involved, but it's what I would like to say, a good form of metagaming to go, all right, I outstepped myself, I have to be careful. And then afters, we all talked about it.
Right.
We joked about it. It's like, yeah, I rolled you good. Like, no, you jumped me. Like, you got me. That was awesome. And it was fun. And it wasn't done out of griefing or out of malicious intent. The intent was, hey, don't be dumb. You're starting to overstep your bounds. You're starting to get too big for your britches. You're starting to do bad. Who is it for that player to be that judge is another question. So now to turn back to, I've personally run into players that they play in a game that doesn't have PvP.
Or the PvP is discouraged.
Is discouraged. Now all of a sudden you have players doing or exhibiting poor behavior, where they're getting to a point of, where am I the judge to say they're doing poor behavior? Let's call a spade here. Like, who am I to say that this person is, doing negative things? But I would think that after X number of years, I could look and go, no, your behavior is bad for the game, or your behavior is encouraging. Toxic. It's a toxic form of gamemanship, and me telling you this is only resulting in you still doing it.
There has to be some type of consequences for you continuing to do it. Do I
roll you and take your stuff to teach you a lesson? Well, if that's going to be discouraged, now it's to a point of, do I let this bad behavior continue? Or do I put my foot down and say, you know what? I'm going to engage in PvP with you, and I'm going to do it until you no longer come back to the chapter. Now I am a bully. Now I am harassing.
Correct.
Now I am being a hyper-negative player. But at what, am I willing to eat that bullet to make a player that I have seen on several instances be a negative force for the game?
Right.
So it's a weird dichotomy of going, ultimately, who am I to be the judge of this? It should be up to plot. It should be up to owners. It should be up to other players or other people to say this. But sometimes it doesn't happen. It's a weird gray line to go.
I feel like it existed way more personally, and this is my experience with it. So, word vomiting aside from you,
sure.
This is my personal experience with it. I've never had PvP done on. Actually, I take that back. I had a transform or a set of skills that activated to protect another player at some point because of something stupid in-game I did.
Sure.
I did have player versus player happen against me because as soon as I got activated, that transform got activated, I became essentially the bad guy.
Right.
A mook of the bad guy. So then, yes, players came after me, even though I was...
But at that point, it was the plot team that activated that.
Correct.
Therefore, you became a plot device.
Yes.
So that's not really player. That's you at that point as a...
I was a plot monster.
You became an NPC for the most part.
Right.
Like you're an NPC PC.
So yes. So if you put that aside, then no, I have never been a victim of player versus player. I've also never done player versus. I've never also been part of player versus player. I was part of a mob to find a player once, but we didn't find them, so it didn't work. But I also find that player versus player is actually a good barometer to tell how a plot team, whether or not they're doing a good job.
Are we talking about PC boredom levels?
Yes, we are. I have been to several events where plot has not kept a finger on the pulse of the game for that weekend, and PCs, when they get bored, tend to find things to entertain themselves.
They like to use skills, and if they need to use skills on each other, so be it.
And sometimes that is in a negative way. I've seen it in a positive, joking around, funny, ha ha ha, I throw weakness at you, Bane, weakness acts as death, now I'm dead. But it also is been used negatively, and you end up with a mob mentality now hunting after a character that would not have been hunted after had we had other goals or things in front of us to use those skills.
Sure.
So player versus player for me is not something that I think I have the opinion of saying if it's good or bad to the game. It definitely exists, and I play a character that is paranoid enough that if it happens to come to player versus player, I will always make sure that I am on the winning side.
Sure.
So either that comes from having...
Oh, we go to 8 Mile Road.
Oh, we are.
Ha ha ha.
So either I have people that are always with me and I never walk alone.
Sure.
Or if it came to it and somebody wanted to jump me, I'm, again, always super paranoid and have defenses up or something that's going to be able to help me either win or survive that encounter.
Okay.
But I don't feel like player versus player is something that I have experienced at the level that you have.
No, I've resurrected in the teens and definitely have permed a few characters in my day. But again, that was the style of game back then where you did have player conflict. Because that's the other thing about PvP is then you also have the negative aspect of you will have people that will generate troll type characters, not as an ice troll, cave troll, but rather like a group will come in with characters intending to ruin other players' days,
right?
Knowing that they're playing a throwaway character. Hey, we're just gonna I got some extra XP. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna make a character that I don't care about, that I'm looking forward to just killing off, but try to ruin somebody else's experience and ruin somebody else's day by doing that. So you do have that issue of that can be done. Now, I will say, though, that this becomes an ancillary topic because there are some other games out there that have that built in, the PvP aspect to it, that rely on other players factionally fighting against each other for whatever reason. Sometimes there'll be games where you'll have racial wars because of, an elf or humans don't like each other and stuff. So,
right.
And I wonder where the mechanics and the balance of that stuff is. So, it's PvP is a very, very rough and sensitive topic because again, it goes back to the hyper aggression that you're dealing with as well. Once you engage in PvP, you do start dealing with a level of
competitiveness.
How much of it becomes out of gaminess.
Right.
And now you're dealing with a level of competitiveness. And it's difficult to separate those, which can cause... Ultimately, it can cause grief. At the end of the day, I think, while PvP could be a good tool and could be a good teaching tool and can add a level of paranoia,
fear.
A level of fear that you don't get just from the game. Because sometimes, you do become Billy BA and you can become very powerful or just in a situation where like, okay, we think we got this. But then all of a sudden one of the rogues in your own group or somebody that you just met backstabs you or has an ulterior motive or sells you out.
Right.
Takes this information and sells it to a bad guy for coin or something. It may make sense to their thing, to that character's motive. But
now it's active player versus player.
Now it's active player versus player. There's, for as many good traits as it could offer, I just see the negative outweighing it, at least in the games that we play.
Right.
Because that's another thing, too, is you have to remember that we play Nero, we play Alliance, and we found that PvP in those two games have been curtailed and do not necessarily bring a worthwhile boon to the game. It can cause rifts in community. Mm-hmm. It can be problematic early on. Maybe where games get to 100 players, 125 players, 200 players, PvP won't be as big of a deal. Because then even then I begin to wonder, like maybe it won't be big of a deal because it's not as personal. But at the same time, now you go into escalation creep where, you killed my friend, now me and my friend are going to kill you. And now all of a sudden it becomes full out gang war.
Right.
Where you got Group A versus Group B, and now the whole weekend is running from 25 people, because their 25 people are representing the I'm trying to think of vampire type things like True Bloods and
Camarilla versus...
No, not that. Like, I'm going Bloods and Crips, but like True Bloods and Mausoleum Crips.
Okay.
That's the gang. That's a gang war here.
All right, so that basically gives you a summation of our opinions on that.
Yeah, and that gives us about an hour here on the cast. We're almost at our location, so we could call it here. We didn't get to all the questions we wanted to get to, but we rambled a little bit. And yeah, we'll put the rest of these questions in our to answer later box. I do believe this next episode after this, so what is this one? Will be 12? So episode 13 will be a recap of the Alliance event and talking about our nonsense. I'm sure you'll be itchy to talk a little about Endgame.
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe?
We'll see.
You're hoping
it's still within those 2 weeks. You gotta follow guidelines.
Maybe we'll do we'll talk about it, and then with the last 10 minutes be like, spoiler alert, and then
it
talk
always
some
depends
stuff.
on if you've seen it too by that point.
I'm pretty sure you'll be highly disappointed if I didn't see it by then.
Maybe.
No, there's no maybe. You'll be highly... I know you.
I have expectations. They need to be met.
You will not just be disappointed. You will give me judgment eyes all day. I'll be eating a sandwich and you'll go by at idle speed in your car. Just
and those that know
down.
me and listen to this podcast, they know exactly what look on my face you're getting.
You get judgment eyes. Sometimes your judgment eyes don't work though. You get a look where it's like you're either eyeballing me or you got gas. I can't tell which look it is, but it's there.
And on that note, good night, everybody.
Take care. As always, I am Dusty Red.
And I am Dusty White.
Toodles. Bye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Grey Muzzle Geekery with Dusty Red and Dusty White.
You can support our continued geekery at our Patreon website, patreon.com/Grey Muzzle Geekery. Be sure to check back often as we start to add geek cred levels.
You can send your questions and comments to us at greymuzzlegeekery@gmail.com or find us on Twitter at Grey Muzzle Geek.
We can be found on iTunes, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, and Buzzsprout.
And a special thank you to Pepper Coyote for our intro theme. And if you like what you heard, you can find more of his stuff on Spotify, Patreon, or directly from his Bandcamp page.